Can a nation actually be impossible to conquer? While the world debates military might and nuclear arsenals, one country sits protected not by weapons, but by nature itself. And right now, at this very moment, a silent war is unfolding in the waters around this nation. A war most people don't even know exists. A war where one wrong move could choke the entire world economy. This is the story of India, and why invading it might be the deadliest mistake any military power could ever make. Before someone jumps in and says, "But the British did it," let's set the record straight. The British did not invade India the way modern wars imagine invasion. There were no massive amphibious landings, no armies crossing the Himalayas, no continental-scale military conquest. What the British pulled off was something far more dangerous. They entered as traders, not conquerors. The East India Company arrived with ships, contracts, and commerce, not battalions. They exploited internal political fragmentation, weakened empires, rival kings, and local betrayals. They used Indian soldiers to fight other Indians. They controlled ports, money, and administration long before they controlled territory. This was not a geographic defeat, and it only worked because India had no unified central authority at the time. Naval power was unchallenged. Global trade routes were dominated by Europe. Modern nationalism didn't yet exist. Try repeating that strategy today against a standing army of over 1 million soldiers, nuclear weapons, satellites, cyber capabilities, and global alliances, and it collapses instantly. So yes, India was colonized, but India was never truly invaded. And that distinction changes everything. Because when you remove deception and diplomacy, and you're left with pure military force, then India's geography becomes a death trap for any invader. But here's the raw truth nobody wants to talk about. Is India's geography so powerful that it makes the country untouchable? Or is China's billion-dollar strategy slowly tightening a noose around the Indian subcontinent that could strangle its future? Calling India just a country feels wrong. It's not a nation. It's an entire world compressed into borders. The seventh largest landmass on this planet, spreading across 3.28 million square kilometers, sheltering nearly 1.5 billion souls. Think about that number. 1.5 billion human beings, each with dreams, struggles, and stories. To the west, the Arabian Sea crashes against the shores. To the east, the Bay of Bengal stretches endlessly. Down south, the mighty Indian Ocean roars. Together, these waters form a coastline that runs over 7,500 kilometers. That's not just land meeting water. That's power. Trade routes that have existed for millennia. Fishing zones that feed millions. Beaches that take your breath away. But turn toward the north and something unbelievable appears. The Himalayas, not just mountains. A wall of ice and stone that touches the sky. A natural fortress that has blocked freezing winds for thousands of years. A shield that has protected this land from invasion after invasion. And just below these titans lies the Indo-Gangetic Plain, one of Earth's most fertile regions. This isn't just farmland. This is India's beating heart, the food bowl that has sustained entire civilizations since the dawn of human history. Travel south and the landscape transforms again into the Deccan Plateau. Rolling hills, dense forests, minerals buried deep in the earth. This is the engine room, the industrial powerhouse that drives India's economy forward, day after day, year after year. And still, India has more to show. From the lush Western Ghats, where rain pours down in sheets, to the vast Thar Desert, where temperatures can melt resolve. From the thick jungles of the Northeast, where every shadow hides life, to the distant Andaman and Nicobar Islands floating in the Bay of Bengal. All of this packed into one nation. India wasn't shaped by geography. Geography bent itself around India. And if geography truly is destiny, then India's destiny was written on a scale almost no other nation on earth can even comprehend. Most countries can be invaded if someone has enough soldiers, enough weapons, enough money. But invading India, that's a different story altogether, an almost impossible story, and it has nothing to do with the military, technology, or alliances. It's all about the land itself. India doesn't need man-made walls like China's Great Wall. Nature built the walls. Mountains, forests, deserts, oceans. each one a deadly barrier. Stand at India's northern border and look up. The Himalayas, the tallest mountain range on the entire planet, stretching farther than the distance from New York to Miami. And every single kilometer is lethal. For thousands upon thousands of kilometers, these mountains create a barrier that armies cannot cross. Steep cliffs that drop into nothingness. Narrow passes where one mistake means death. Temperatures that plunge below zero. Air so thin that even the most trained soldiers gasp for breath, their lungs burning, their bodies failing. Imagine trying to move an army through that hell. They can't climb those slopes. Supply trucks. They break down in the cold. Helicopters. They fight against winds that can tear metal apart. Moving through the Himalayas isn't just difficult, it's suicide. Shift west, and the terrain changes but doesn't get any easier. The Thar Desert, one of Asia's hottest nightmares. Temperatures blast past 50 degrees Celsius. Sandstorms erase visibility in seconds. Engines overheat and die. Soldiers dehydrate, collapse, and perish. Entire battalions slow to a crawl, then stop completely. History proved this in 1971 during the Bangladesh Liberation War, when Pakistan tried to cross this desert. They failed. The sand defeated them. Look to the northeast, and there lie the Seven Sisters. Dense jungles so thick that sunlight barely reaches the ground. Heavy rainfall that turns earth to mud. Steep hills and narrow valleys perfect for ambushes. This region was built for guerrilla warfare, not for massive invading armies. During World War II, Japanese forces tried to enter India through Myanmar using this exact route. The terrain stopped them cold. Not bullets, not bombs. The jungle itself. What about attacking from the sea? That's equally nightmarish. In the south sits the Deccan Plateau, flanked by the Western Ghats near the Arabian Sea and the Eastern Ghats near the Bay of Bengal. These mountain ranges, covered in thick forests and hammered by heavy rainfall, make landing an army nearly impossible. And even if someone manages to land, India's Navy waits with over 130 warships, submarines, and aircraft carriers ready to strike. But let's imagine the impossible. Let's say somehow an invader gets past the mountains, survives the deserts, fights through the jungles, and conquers the seas. What waits for them then one of the world's largest, most battle-hardened militaries? India fields over 1 million active soldiers backed by massive reserves. The missile command can strike across continents. This military has fought everywhere on glaciers, in deserts, through jungles, on high-altitude battlefields where oxygen is a luxury. Then comes the real deterrent, the weapon that changes everything. Nuclear weapons. India possesses a full nuclear triad, meaning it can strike by land, air, and sea. On land, the Agni missile series stands ready. From the air, aircraft like the Mirage 2000 and the Sukhoi Su-30 MKI carry nuclear payloads. And at sea, the true game-changer patrols silently the INS Arihant, a nuclear-powered submarine armed with ballistic missiles. Even if India is attacked first, even if cities burn, it can still strike back. The second strike capability guarantees mutual destruction. Even in the wildest scenario where an invader somehow captures a few cities, then what India's ultimate strength awakens? Its people. 1.5 billion of them. Any occupier wouldn't just face the military, they'd face millions upon millions of civilians who would resist, protest, sabotage, and fight back with everything they have. No modern superpower has ever successfully occupied a nation this enormous and this diverse. It's never happened because it can't happen. And there's more. The geopolitical cost. India isn't isolated. It's a major partner for the United States, Europe, Russia, Japan, and countless other nations. Any invasion would trigger immediate sanctions, global backlash, and possibly international military intervention. In today's interconnected world, attacking India isn't just a military gamble, it's economic suicide. But what's happening right now near India should deeply worry anyone who cares about freedom, democracy, and peace in this part of the world. Look at the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, India's stunning island territory sitting in the Bay of Bengal. These islands aren't just beautiful, they're strategically crucial and absolutely vital for India's national security. They guard sea lanes, protect India's eastern flank, and serve as a natural shield in the Indian Ocean. Now, just 55 kilometers north of these islands sits a tiny dot on the map called Coco Island. On paper, it belongs to Myanmar, but recent satellite photos have sent shockwaves through intelligence agencies around the globe. Coco Island used to be basically nothing, just a sleepy, forgotten place with a basic 1,400-meter dirt runway. Nothing special, nothing threatening, nothing that would catch anyone's attention. But now everything has changed dramatically. That humble dirt strip has been completely torn up and rebuilt from scratch. It's been stretched to 2,300 meters of reinforced concrete, a full-fledged military-grade runway. This isn't some small upgrade. This is a total transformation. It can now easily handle China's advanced J-10 fighter jets, massive Y-8 cargo and transport planes, and sophisticated KJ-500 airborne early warning aircraft. And that's not all. Even more alarming, there's now a cutting-edge over-the-horizon radar system installed on North Hill that can track and monitor Indian airspace and shipping routes across a terrifying range of 500 to 600 kilometers. Here's the question that should make everyone stop and think. Why would a peaceful island with fewer than 1,000 residents, absolutely no commercial airline service, zero tourist infrastructure, and barely any economic activity suddenly receive this kind of massive, expensive military makeover? The answer is as simple as it is disturbing. This isn't Myanmar acting alone. China is the mastermind behind every single move. Intelligence agencies from India, the United States, and Japan have confirmed it repeatedly through multiple sources. Chinese money is bankrolling the entire operation. Chinese engineers, construction crews, and military equipment are flooding onto the island. Myanmar's military and government are essentially acting as middlemen, systematically converting this entire peaceful island into what is effectively a Chinese military forward base. And China's strategic goal couldn't be more transparent or more threatening: establish a permanent spy post to watch, track, and monitor every single movement of India's Navy and Air Force in real time. Think about the implications for a moment. From this one small island, China can observe Indian naval exercises, track warship movements, monitor aircraft patrols, and gather intelligence on India's military capabilities and patterns. It's like having a surveillance camera pointed directly at your neighbor's house, watching everything they do, 24 hours a day. A hidden, silent battle is rapidly heating up across the Indian Ocean. On one side, China is aggressively pushing forward, trying to establish total dominance and control over these strategically crucial waters. On the other side stands India, proud, determined, and refusing to back down, countering China's every move with brilliant strategic thinking, careful planning, and unwavering national resolve. But what's really going on beneath the surface? What strategies is India using to protect its interests? How is this quiet struggle between two Asian giants actually playing out in the waters and skies? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future of peace and the stability in the region? Both India and China have their eyes fixed on the Indian Ocean, and the reason is straightforward but incredibly important. The world's most critical trade routes flow through these waters. This isn't just about regional politics. This is about global survival and economic power. Let's talk numbers that reveal just how vital this ocean really is. Around 80% of China's crude oil, the lifeblood of its entire economy, travels through the Indian Ocean. About 90% of Japan's oil passes through these same waters. A staggering 95% of South Korea's oil supply follows this route. China alone conducts roughly 60% of its total international trade through the Indian Ocean, and globally, approximately 50% of all container shipments and a massive 40% of the world's oil trade moves through these waters every single day. Think about that for a moment. Half the world's shipping containers, nearly half the planet's oil, all flowing through one ocean. And here's what makes this situation even more precarious and strategically explosive. All this enormous traffic, trillions of dollars worth of goods, millions of barrels of oil, the economic foundation of multiple nations must squeeze through just three major choke points. Three narrow sea passages that literally control the economic fate of entire countries and regions. The first critical choke point is the Strait of Malacca, an incredibly narrow sea passage measuring just 2.8 kilometers at its narrowest point. squeezed between Indonesia and Malaysia. Ships pass through here in a tight, controlled flow. There's barely any room for error. The second choke point is the Strait of Hormuz, sitting between Iran and Oman with a width of about 33 kilometers. The third is Bab el-Mandeb, a thin strip of water between Djibouti and Yemen, spanning just 29 kilometers. Now imagine what would happen if even just one of these choke points suddenly closed down for merely 10 days. Not months, not years, just 10 days. The entire global economy would experience violent shockwaves. China's massive manufacturing sector would grind to a halt. Gas stations across Asia would run completely dry. Prices for fuel, food, electronics, and countless other goods would skyrocket to unimaginable levels worldwide. Supply chains would collapse. Economies would panic. It would be chaos on a global scale. And here's where India's natural geographic advantage becomes absolutely crucial and why it terrifies China so deeply. India sits perfectly positioned right at the western gateway of the Strait of Malacca, thanks to the strategic placement of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. This isn't just luck, it's geography as destiny. A long, powerful chain of 572 islands spreads across approximately 800 kilometers, starting from Landfall Island at the northern tip and extending all the way down to Indira Point at the southern end. India is literally positioned right on the main route through which China and most other Asian economic powerhouses receive their oil and conduct the majority of their international trade. This natural geographic advantage is China's biggest strategic nightmare. It's what keeps Chinese military planners and strategists awake at night, poring over maps and running endless scenarios. Because no matter how powerful China's navy becomes, India will always have this fundamental geographic edge. India can potentially influence or even disrupt the very trade routes that China's entire economy depends on, and Beijing knows it. This is why the competition for influence in the Indian Ocean isn't just about pride or regional dominance. It's about economic survival, national security, and the balance of power in Asia for generations to come. Because of this deep-seated fear and strategic vulnerability, China created an extremely ambitious plan called the String of Pearls strategy. The goal, simple but alarming: build a complete circle of ports and military bases all around India, essentially surrounding it from every direction. The first pearl is Bangladesh's Chittagong port. China has invested over $1 billion here through its massive Belt and Road Initiative. This isn't just any port, it's the Bangladesh Navy's primary base. According to a detailed 2022 American intelligence report, Chinese secret listening posts and surveillance facilities are operating right here, constantly monitoring and tracking Indian Navy movements throughout the entire Bay of Bengal. Every ship that moves, every exercise India conducts, China is watching it all. The second pearl is Myanmar's Kyukpu port. This is a massive Chinese infrastructure project worth approximately $7.3 billion, and it's far more than just a simple port. The complex includes a deep-sea port capable of handling huge vessels, a special economic zone for Chinese business interests, and most strategically important, a direct oil and gas pipeline running from Myanmar straight into China's Yunnan province. Think about what this means. China can now transport oil and gas directly to its own territory via land routes, completely bypassing the vulnerable Strait of Malacca that India could potentially control. Even more concerning, satellite images from 2022 and 2023 clearly showed Chinese submarines and warships operating near this port. This is effectively becoming a Chinese naval outpost. The third pearl is Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. This is perhaps the most notorious example of China's debt trap diplomacy. China initially gave Sri Lanka a loan of about $1.4 billion to build this massive port. When Sri Lanka's economy struggled and couldn't repay the mounting debt, the entire port was simply handed over to China on a 99-year lease back in 2017, essentially giving China control for nearly a century. Today, this strategically located port serves as a regular docking point where Chinese spy ships, equipped with large surveillance antennas and advanced tracking systems, arrive and operate every few months. Sri Lanka lost sovereignty over its own port, and China gained a permanent foothold right in India's backyard. The fourth pearl is Pakistan's Gwadar port. part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, with a total cost of roughly $62 billion. Gwadar's strategic strength lies in its location, about 400 kilometers from the Strait of Hormuz, allowing Chinese warships and submarines to dock easily. The fifth pearl is the Djibouti military base, China's first overseas military installation, established in 2017. About 3,500 Marines, tanks, helicopters, and warships are deployed here. The critical factor Djibouti is where America and France also maintain bases. This Chinese base directly monitors the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, one of the world's most crucial choke points. The sixth pearl is Tanzania's Bagamoyo port, China's mega project worth about $10 billion. If this becomes fully operational, China gains a massive deep-sea logistical hub in East Africa. The seventh pearl is Kenya's Lamu port, built at a strategic location on the Indian Ocean with Chinese funding. China now has direct economic and strategic influence over Kenya's maritime infrastructure. The eighth pearl is Cambodia's Ream Naval Base, where China is constructing enormous 11,000-ton piers. These piers are so strong and wide that aircraft carriers, large destroyers, and heavy naval vessels can dock comfortably. The Coco Island development represents something even more dangerous. China creating a Southeast Asian naval base where its Blue Water Navy can conduct full-scale operations for the first time. Connect all these pearls on a map, and they form a complete circle around India. China's strategy is clear: create pressure on India. And if war ever breaks out, use this network to block India's supply lines completely. But India isn't sitting quietly. Not even close. In response to China's string of pearls strategy, India has prepared its own necklace of diamonds strategy, featuring strategic locations, partnerships, and strong naval positions throughout the Indian Ocean. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands form the biggest, most brilliant diamond in this network. This is India's strongest and most secure military hub. Think of it as an unsinkable aircraft carrier that can never be destroyed. Between 2020 and 2025, over 15,000 crore rupees have been invested in these islands. A new 3,000-meter-long runway has been constructed where P-8I surveillance aircraft and fighter jets operate regularly. The INS Baz Naval Base near Campbell Bay has been upgraded significantly, allowing the coastal radar chain to monitor every single movement near Coco Island with perfect clarity. India has also strengthened its network across the Indian Ocean. Indonesia's Sabang port, Seychelles' Assumption Island base, Oman's Duqm port, and Iran's Chabahar port, these locations together give India logistical and military access to every corner of the Indian Ocean. Indian ships and aircraft can deploy and operate anywhere in these waters. India has built a partnership network just as strong as China's investments. Indian carrier groups can use Singapore's Changi Naval Base. Diego Garcia provides intelligence and logistical support in cooperation with the USA and UK. Joint patrolling occurs on France's Réunion Island. Australia provides India with nuclear submarine technology and technical assistance under Quad and AUKUS agreements. The Information Fusion Center, established in Delhi, monitors ship movements across the entire Indian Ocean region in real time. India is also reducing dependency on the Strait of Malacca by focusing on the Lombok and Sunda Straits, where it maintains greater control. India is providing radars, patrol boats, and training to Maldives, Mauritius, and Seychelles, ensuring these nations don't fall into China's debt trap. When the multilateral naval exercise Milan was conducted in Visakhapatnam under the Eastern Naval Command in 2024, 51 countries participated. The Chinese Navy was deliberately not invited. A clear message. So where does this leave the situation? China is trying to buy the Indian Ocean, trapping smaller nations in debt and dependency. India is protecting these waters, helping nations stand on their own feet, building genuine partnerships based on mutual respect. India's geography made it nearly impossible to invade. India's strategy is making it impossible to isolate. The mountains protected the land for thousands of years. Now India's navy and partnerships protect the seas. One thing is absolutely certain. India will not bow. India will not break. What do you think who will emerge victorious in this strategic battle for the Indian Ocean?